Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone to Grandmaster Chess Episode 19. It's a very exciting day, and all of you had been telling me since so many days that when will Daniel Naroditsky come for Grandmaster Chess? Because kind of this format is just made for an amazing tutor like Daniel, and today, after quite a lot of time, Daniel has agreed and he's here, and it's going to be a fantastic session. Let me just take you through a few things before I have Daniel as well as all our four students here. Firstly, a few things about Daniel. He is, a child prodigy. He was world under 12 champion, uh, and it was a phenomenal achievement. But I think what was even more amazing was that at the age of 14, he wrote his first chess book already, which shows he was such a good, so good with explaining concepts of chess. And later on, oh, by the way, today the winner of this episode will get this book of Daniel as the prize. So that is his second book, which is Mastering Complex Endgames, and it is quite a tough book. I'll ask Daniel more about it on the stream. Later on, he went to Stanford, where he did his master's in history, and that was tremendous. And he's also an amazing chess player with an elo highest elo of 2647. Recently he beat Fabiano Caruana as well. And what is, I guess, the most impressive is that he explains chess in truly amazing ways. If you haven't seen his videos yet, I've put his link to the YouTube and Twitch in the description. Look at this. This is a 18-minute video where he explains how a grandmaster plays against beginner, and it has 2 points, which just shows how good he is. The Grandmaster Chess series has been something which has been going on since some time. We had Vidit in episode 1, then we had Boris Gelfand, Nigel Short, Anish Giri, Vladimir Kramnik, Nihal Sarin, Temur Rajabov, Duda, Gary Kasparov, and today we have Daniel, and it's going to be so amazing. Right now, the standings are the following. If you can see them on your screen, Vaibhav Sethia is leading it with 109 points. Biswa has 93.5 points. Anirban has 76.5. And today we also have Prakhar, who is here for his second session. Last time when we did it with Duda, he had actually won it along with Anirban. So, Prakhar is a very strong player. Just to tell you about the students, Biswa Kalyan Rath, one of India's finest stand-up comedians. Also, Vaibhav Sethia, a phenomenal comedian. And Anirban Das Gupta as well, all tremendously and spent countless hours playing the game. We also have Prakhar Gupta, who is a psychologist, also social commentator, and very good at the art of conversations. And I guess just the last thing, the one who wins this entire series, I don't know how many episodes this is going to go for, but I have the chess set at my home. This is by DGT. The one who wins this Grandmaster Chess wins this chess board, and let's see who does that. But right now, without any delay, let me welcome Daniel Naroditsky and everyone. Hello, guys.
Hi.
Hello, Daniel.
Hello.
Hi, Sagar. Hi, everyone. Before we go any further, just wanted to say it's a great honor to be on your channel. You do so much amazing stuff, and I've always dreamed of a collab. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you, Daniel. And
it's nice to all of you.
I believe it's 1:10 where you are right now. 1:12
That's right.
in the night. I mean, you are awake so late in the night, yeah?
Yeah, I'm a certified DGen late night owl. I mean, my bedtime since college has been usually 2:30, 3 a.m. I'm a little bit lower energy today than usual, just because I'm under the weather. But I mean, these are prime time hours for me.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for doing this. And by the way, all of you here, Biswa, Vaibhav, Prakhar, Anirban, we were just talking before we went on stream, and you all follow Daniel a lot, yes?
Big fan.
Yeah. I mean, I watch his videos almost every day religiously.
Amazing. And Prakhar, you were saying about some club, yeah?
Yeah. So I ended up discovering a small little chess community in New York this time around when I went back. And it's a bunch of Jewish guys who all love playing chess. I'm probably the only Indian there. And some of them actually, when they were younger, actually did probably compete with Danya as well. Not at the same level, but probably US Open, whatever. And so we talk about Oh My Lands so much very often. We're like, oh, did you watch that new episode? So I'm sure there are so many guys I'll tell this to once I go back, and they'll all be super jealous. So I'm looking forward to this.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, Daniel, I didn't have to convince anyone. Like the moment I said this is happening, they were all like within a few minutes, like, let's do this. So thank you. And also today's prize, what are your thoughts on this Mastering Complex Endgames? Do you think it's your book, but it's written like a long time ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's my second book after Mastering Positional Chess. It came out in 2011, and just like with my other book, the reason that I mean, I've always loved writing, and to me, writing has always been a way of improving my own skills. Like I love writing stuff down as a way of mastering it and helping myself to remember it. And so I decided to kind of chronicle my journey of improving my endgame understanding. And, that journey turned into the book. So all of the examples in that book are, most of them are pretty unusual. There aren't a lot of famous or super classical examples because I'm trying to fully illustrate all of the positions and games that I stumbled on as I tried to fix my weakness in the end game around the time that I was, becoming an international master. So as I look at it now, there's a lot of things I would change. Obviously, the engine that I used was Fritz, which most people probably don't even know what that is. So there's, of course, some analytical mistakes, but I'm flattered that's the prize.
Well, we have it here, in India. Like I tried to get the other book as well, the positional chess, but we didn't.
It's out of print.
Yeah, so that's why we decided to have this one. I have a lot of questions to you, but I'll ask them when we'll give them time to think during the game.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get started.
Sure. Sagar, before we do you mind if I take 20 seconds? I just got to grab my other headphones. These are running out of battery. Can I just take 15 seconds? I'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay, guys, today is Daniel's game against Ortiz Suarez that we are going to see, and it is an epic game. Vaibhav is like, have you seen it, Vaibhav, the game?
No, I haven't.
No, not you. I guess Prakhar did it. I don't, and I hope none of you have seen this game.
No. I was wondering if we do Caruana.
Yeah. No, Daniel said that the Caruana game is well known, so many of the people would know about it. So this one, and it's also very interesting. And as always, guys, the format is 10 points for 10 critical moments in the game. If you get a move which Daniel thinks is good enough but was not played in the game, you still get 1 point. A decent move gets you half point. A wrong move gets you 0. And yeah.
All right. I think Sagar, I'm seeing your screen now.
Yeah, can you hear me well? I think yes. I changed my internet connection, and I hope that everything will be smooth now. So sorry about that. Okay, so let's get it started. Daniel, you were playing with the white pieces. Your opponent was Ortiz Suarez. Could you tell us a bit about this game, like where it was? And
Sure. So this was played in 2019. I had just graduated from college, and I was in this kind of limbo where I had a big decision to make about whether or not to go to graduate school and pursue a graduate degree and ultimately become a professor, which was my initial goal going to college, because I kind of beat it into myself that I wouldn't be able to make a living off of chess. And I decided over that summer to teach at a few camps and just play a couple of tournaments for fun. And one of those tournaments, incidentally, was played in Greensboro, which is a city in North Carolina, 1 hour away from Charlotte, which is the biggest city where I currently live. And throughout the process of playing those tournaments in the summer, I fell in love with chess again. It was like with every move that I played, with every tournament that I went to, I realized more and more that I needed to get back into chess. This is what I needed to do. And this was the path that I needed to take. So this tournament was a big reason why I thought that. It was a very strong open tournament. It's held every year in North Carolina. So this was round 7. I think I was tied for first at this point. And as with all American tournaments, there are 2 games a day. And it's grueling. The first game, I had a long game against another GM. I managed to win it. And, this was the evening game. And I was exhausted. I was playing Ortiz, who I'd played previously. He's a Cuban Grandmaster who plays a lot in the US. So I didn't have very high expectations coming in. I was, barely seeing the board straight. And of course, those are the moments when you end up playing your best games.
Right. So this is Ortiz here, and he was Daniel's opponent. And so evening round, let's begin. You are playing with the white pieces, and you opened the game with 1 d4. Is that your favorite move? Like you always play 1 d4, or?
My soul is made up of e4. If this material of my soul is e4, but as I became a GM, I started to diversify my repertoire. I used to be sort of e4 exclusive. I still don't really play d4 main lines very often, but I incorporated the Jabawa London, as we'll see in this game, into my repertoire, and I started doing pretty well with it.
Okay, so d4, d5 by Ortiz, knight to c3. And earlier this would have been the Veresov, but now everyone calls it the Jabawa London. I mean, Daniel, if you think about it, maybe a few years ago, this would have been kind of stupid, to play this way. Either you play the London or you play the Veresov. You don't mix the two.
And you certainly don't play the Italian shifted one file to the left. I mean, that seems to make no sense at all. This seems very amateurish. And if somebody played this in the year 1960, you would think it's a beginner because this violates all the rules. You can't block the C pawn in a d4 opening. But that's the super exciting thing about chess is that there's been this re-examination of even the most basic principles, and that's led to a revival in so many different openings which previously would have been laughed off the Grandmaster stage.
Right. So exactly, and here bishop f4. E6 was played by Ortiz, and guys, here is already your first moment to think white to play. What did Daniel do here? And Daniel, how much time should we give for this question?
I think this one doesn't require too much calculation. I don't know what standard
2 minutes.
So maybe
can I give
let's
2 minutes?
Let's do 2 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
2 minutes is good.
So 2 minutes for you guys to think and generally also everyone in the chat joins in. And I think Grandmaster Chess is one of those sessions where the entire chat is filled with moves. So
that's awesome.
If in case, I'll also put up we have this kind of the screen here where we get the chat's statistics as well. But we'll see.
Oh, that's awesome. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Daniel, the thing is, if they give a move which was played in the game, that doesn't qualify as the full point. Yeah, you can decide what to give full points to, 1 point. You can decide if you want to give half a point or you want to give a 0. It's totally up to you.
So full point, half a point, 0, and I can give full point for multiple responses.
Yes. If they make sense to you, and if you think that it was good enough but not the best, then you can think about giving it a half in case you don't want to give it a 0. And at the end of 10 questions, we'll have a winner here.
Man, I won't be very good at giving zeros. I'm kind of a softie, but I'll do my best.
That's the thing about people who have come here. Like I remember Kramnik was very strict. Like he would not give any points. And then we had like someone like Nihal who was like, oh, everything is right. And so.
Yeah, exactly. No, I feel like I'd be closer to Nihal, but I'll do my best to be objective.
Okay, cool. Okay, guys, you have last 20 seconds left. And okay, let's start with Biswa here.
E3.
E3 is Biswa's move. So in this position, Biswa would like to go E3. Okay, Anirban?
E4.
E4. Okay. What about Vaibhav?
E3.
E3. And Prakhar?
Knight f3.
Knight to f3. Okay, so none of you were able to find the move that Daniel played in the game, but I'll leave it up to Daniel to tell me. Two people have said e3, Daniel one e4, and as you can already sense from their answers, you know, they have differing styles of play. And
absolutely.
Can I take one more guess?
but your answer will be
I don't
e3.
want points.
Okay.
I don't want points.
Okay.
Just a guess. Is
Yeah.
it f3?
Yeah.
3 is okay. This, and by the way, Prakhar said knight f3. So let's start with e3. Daniel, what do you think?
I'm going to give half a point to E3
Half a
because E3 is the most popular move in this position, but it's, you know, clearly inferior to the move in the game.
point. Okay.
And should we start by assigning point values to all the moves, or should I kind of explain the moves?
You could
individually?
do it your way. Yeah.
Okay, so the reason that E3, I mean, E3 is very sensible. You're developing your pieces, but Black has Bishop B4, and after E3 Bishop B4, White is kind of fighting for equality. Here, White kind of has nothing to show for the structure. For example, Bishop D3, and then Black could hit White with C5, and Black is extremely comfortable here due to that pin.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of Bishop B4 is quite nasty. White needs to do something about that. And for that same reason, I think Knight F3 is probably a little bit worse than E3. I mean, Knight F3, there's Bishop B4, and that Black has the idea of Knight E4. So, you know, this is also not going in a very good direction for White. So I'll probably give 0 for Knight F3.
Okay, so 0 for Knight f3. Although it looks the most
I'm
natural,
sorry.
and also
I'm mean.
no. That's great. I'm sure Prakhar doesn't mind it, and they are all here to also learn. So the main thing is to make sure. But Knight f3 was a move suggested in chat by so many people. But now you understand
Right.
that Bishop b4 is actually a kind of a small threat of e6.
Yeah, positional threat, right? Bishop B4 creates, you know, this very unpleasant pin. So E4 is an interesting move, and this gambit exists in similar positions. I don't feel like it makes too much sense here. And Black can play knight takes E4, for example. So knight E4. Who suggested this?
Anirban.
Anirban, did you have sort of a follow-up idea in mind?
Yeah, I was thinking to basically disturb the opponent's pawn formation and then go about it.
That's fair, but you know, you're doing it at the cost of a pawn, and I feel like that's too much of a price to pay. Also, that pawn on E4 is actually a strength rather than a weakness, because it's making it hard for White to develop the knight to F3, and the bishop can't come out to D3. So that pawn is kind of the bane of White's existence here. I feel like White's doesn't have sufficient compensation.
Got it. You know, Daniel, Anirban likes to sacrifice pieces here. He couldn't see that he could sacrifice a piece here, so he gave up a pawn.
Right. It's like next best thing.
Okay.
So shall I reveal the move?
Would Black not prefer taking with the pawn first?
Yeah, Black can take with a pawn as well. I think that both moves are fine. I mean, taking with a pawn has the advantage of now threatening Bishop B4 once again. So I honestly think either recapture is fine.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what did you do, Daniel, here?
So I played Knight B5, which looks like a move you play in an elementary school chess class. Like, is the point really that he's going to miss Knight takes C7? But in reality, this move is it's completely positional. Of course, I realize that he's going to defend the c7 pawn, but if you look at it carefully, it turns out that it's not so easy to defend that pawn in a convenient manner. There are two main ways of defending it. Black can go bishop d6, but then I take with a knight and I ruin black's pawn structure. Then I can go e3 and I've got the two bishops, and the bishop on f4 is exerting pressure on d6. So white is slightly better here without question. The second way of defending c7, which is what he played, and that's the most popular move, is knight a6. But now the point is that I've gotten his knight onto a very awkward development, onto a very awkward square. And although black will be able to chase my knight away with c6 on the next move, I'm going to happily go back to c3. And the claim that I'm making is that he's going to have a very, very hard time reactivating that knight from a6 and bringing it back to civilization.
Wow. Very interesting. Yeah. So the knight on a6 is misplaced here. And that's the idea behind knight b5. And now you continued with e3 in the game, which is just developing. He went bishop e7, knight to f3. And somehow, Ortiz was not keen on playing c6. Why was that? Like, he could have pushed your knight away.
Yeah, he could have played c6 at any moment, and he ended up not playing it at all, which was pretty crazy. I guess he thought that, there's no rush, and he's right. I mean, there is no rush. He can play c6 whenever he wants to. But he might have also thought that, by keeping my knight on b5, he's lessening my control over the center, and maybe, he was thinking about going knight e4 in certain moments. But that was, I think, my opponent's main mistake in the opening, is that he started mixing up a bunch of plans. Like, he couldn't decide what he wanted to do, and he ended up getting, very bad version of this type of position. He should have definitely gone c6, sooner rather than later.
Just one question here. If, let's say, you went e3, and if he had gone c6, you go back, and then bishop b4, don't we come back to the same situation?
Yeah, except there's bishop takes. So there's a very concrete idea, which is bishop takes a6. And after b takes a6, white can play knight g to e2. And now the pin has been largely disarmed. White is ready to castle, and black has to reckon with permanent weaknesses on his queen side.
And if he takes in between c3, then also that position is kind of okay.
Yeah, I mean, I analyzed it, and I thought that it's slightly better for white after knight e2. And part of the reason is that I think my bishop is a lot better than black's bishop. My bishop is sort of in the open. Black has a very hard time activating his bishop. For instance, knight e2 a5 can be tried.
Yeah.
And among other things, white can contemplate maybe queen d3 to stop bishop a6. But I think that white is, the computer gives a slight edge for white here, and that's basically all I can ask for.
Right. Okay, so going back to the game, after bishop e7, knight f3 castles, you went a3, and now Ortiz played a very concrete move, attacking your bishop on f4. And guys, this is your second moment. What do you play here with white? White to move, and maybe here another 2 minutes or 3 minutes perhaps.
Let's do 3 minutes in this position.
Okay, 3 minutes here. And guys, in the chat also, you can write your moves so that later on, if there's something very spectacular, we'll check there as well. And we had a couple of super chats. Chess Fabregas says, don't let Daniel go without him do a few impressions for us.
Oh man, they caught me. You guys caught me. Well, they probably won't be up to my usual standard because of my sore throat, but I'll do my best. I promise I won't leave people without a few impressions.
Thank you, Dan. And Anuj says, both my chess teachers, Sagar and Danya, on the same screen, and is very happy. Thank you, Anuj. That's very
Nice.
kind of. Biswa, today is your birthday.
What
No, right?
nonsense is this?
Okay.
See, if it was, I'd be even stricter. I would have vested interest in ruining it.
Definitely not my birthday.
Okay, everyone in the chat, I don't know why you are trolling with the birthday thing, but okay, a lot of answers here, guys. Try to think, and while they are thinking, Daniel, one thing which I have been simply amazed with is, how did you write a book at the age of 14? I try to write right now at this age. I'm not able to complete it. I mean, it's one thing to have the capacity to write, like the level, but it's quite another to have the patience as a young kid to write it.
Yeah, it's sort of it's like the Big Bang. There's this expression: there was nothing, and then it happened, and then it exploded. And I've always loved, for my 7th, 8th birthdays, as soon as I knew how to write, I wanted notebooks. I loved writing in notebooks, diaries, short stories. Even before I played chess. So around the time that I turned 13, for my birthday, I got this really nice notebook with kind of a velvet cover. And I resolved that I was going to fill it with something that corresponded to, the fanciness of the notebook. And I thought, okay, at that point I was collecting notes about various chess topics. And I thought, I'm just going to casually write, my biggest weakness at the time was positional play. And I thought, okay, so I'm going to write down all of the games that I analyze with my coach and by myself as I try to improve my positional play. I'm going to write out all of the annotations, all of the analysis. Back then, I didn't think that this would turn into a published book. Before I blinked, in about a year, I had a 250-page notebook filled with handwritten notes. And I looked at it and I said, well, wait a minute. What if I try to type this up, make some revisions and publish it? Because it had also been a dream of mine to publish a book. I thought, no, there's no way this is going to happen. It's going to be rejected. But I managed to type it up. There were a lot of corrections that had to be made, a lot of examples that had to be scrapped once I computer checked them. But ultimately, my dad helped me write a bunch of chess publishers, and New in Chess responded.
Wow.
And I'll wrap up the story. I know we should get to the game, but New in Chess said, we like the book, we want to see more, but who's the author? Who actually wrote it? And, we had to send examples of that handwritten manuscript to prove that I had actually written it, that there was no ghostwriter. And to their credit, New in Chess believed it, so I fooled them. Just kidding. But they wanted to see more, and that's how the book got published. It took a bunch of time, and there was a lot of back and forth, but then I held it in my hands, and it was an amazing feeling.
Amazing. Yeah, tremendous. What a nice story. And also it shows how you can do two things at the same time. You can improve at chess and you can do another thing. But to do that at the age of 14 or 15 is very impressive. Okay.
Thank you.
Anirban, what is your move?
Bishop G3.
Okay. Anirban says he wants to just drop back his bishop to G3. Vaibhav?
Knight E5.
Knight to E5 is what Vaibhav wants to do. And Prakhar?
Bishop E5.
Bishop E5 is Prakhar's move. And Biswa?
Bishop G3.
Bishop G3. So we have two Bishop G3s, one Knight E5 and one Bishop E5. Over to you, Danya.
Okay, so Bishop G3 to me is the sort of most natural move, and I'll give it half a point. It's also been played twice by decent players. This position has occurred six times, my game included. So the point of Bishop G3, of course, is that if Knight takes G3, then you take with the H pawn, and White takes advantage of the fact that he hasn't castled yet because you got this open H file. You can play Bishop D3, and you can start trying to attack the king side. The issue with Bishop G3 is that Black is not going to take that bishop. And after Bishop G3, Black can play something along the lines of C6, Knight C3, C5. And this position is approximately equal. But in comparison to what I did, there's one major improvement, the way that I played, which is going to become evident sort of once you see the text. So Bishop G3 is reasonable, but not too ambitious, doesn't actually cause too many problems for Black.
Okay, so half a point to Biswa and Anirban, who said Bishop G3. Okay, and Knight E.
So Knight E5, unfortunately, I'll have to give that 0 because it forces Black's hand, but it turns out that after Knight takes F4, E takes F4. Well, one thing that I tell my students sometimes is not to confuse, to be really specific about understanding whether pieces are actually good or whether they're pseudo active. And this is an example of the latter. The knights look good, but they can both be pushed away very easily. Black can play F6, get that knight out of E5, let's say knight F3. and then black can play c6 and get the other knight out of b5. And after knight c3, black can start targeting the f4 pawn with bishop d6, and then try to quickly break through with e5 when white might end up paying the price for not having castled. Yeah, rook e8, e5, this can get annoying. So knight e5 is a good thought, but it ends up in pretty dangerous territory.
Okay. So no knight e5 here. And the last one was Prakhar's bishop e5 here.
And that is correct. That is the move that I played. That is the best move and the best try for an advantage.
Prakhar.
Very nice.
Could you tell us why is that so good?
You're asking Prakhar to...
No. To you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Maybe Prakhar could also say it, but what was his idea behind it?
Are we tempting f6?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. You're tempting f6, and this is one of those moves where you'll often see GMs doing that, and it might look mysterious. Like, why are you'll often see like bishop h7 check and then back to e4. And often the point of those types of moves is to provoke a weakening move. So bishop e5 provokes f6, and now thank you very much for the weaknesses, bishop g3. And let's compare this position to the immediate bishop g3. Well, after anything c6, knight c3, you can see how much the move f6 damages black's kingside. It damages the prospects for the knight on h5, which now has no way back and essentially will have to take on g3 at some point. So this is a marked improvement. And, I didn't really calculate any further. I just knew that by process of comparison, this was the best try.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. Guys, do you have any questions? Or is it clear? Bishop e5 was...
Nice.
Okay. So bishop e5, and just to see what our chat had, bishop g3 was the main move that was considered there, and also bishop e5 was the second main move. So good job by everyone.
Well done.
Okay. So coming back to the game, after bishop e5, f6 was played by Ortiz, bishop g3 was played, and now instead of playing c6, which looks logical and kicking the knight, he went for c5.
This was a mistake, and he explained to me after the game the reason he didn't play c6, knight c3, c5 is because he was worried of me taking on a6. And he was worried about the line, so c5, bishop a6, ba6, dc, bishop takes c5, knight d4. And yeah, if black takes on g3 here, then white has everything that I would want, but black can simply go g6. And, black's pawn structure isn't great, but you can see that black has a nice center. Black can eventually go for e5, not immediately, but eventually. And the position is extremely double-edged. The engine gives a tiny edge to white, but by and large, I think the position is dynamically equal.
Right. Okay. So he
was worried about that and decided to leave my knight on b5, which I loved seeing.
So yeah, now the knight is here, but I think the next moment is a very, very important one. Prakhar, why did you switch off your camera? Is Prakhar here? Or... he is not here. Something went wrong. But okay, he'll be back. But sorry. Nice, Prakhar.
Oh, I think it's back.
Very good for only Anirban remained where he had to.
There is an imbalance in the layout.
Everyone has shifted. But...
that's like when they ask people to move from the back of the plane to the front of the plane to balance the weight.
Prakhar, what happened?
I don't know. My AirPods got disconnected. I was just trying to connect them back, and now I guess I'm Vaibhav.
Okay, I'll fix it. But this is your third moment to think, and I guess Daniel, one of the most critical moments. Yeah, this one.
This is one of the most important moments in the game because by making the correct decision here, I was able to set the tone really for the rest of the game. I mean, this is the moment when I secured my advantage and I didn't give it away for the rest of the game.
Okay, so 3 minutes again. That sounds reasonable.
Let's do 3 minutes.
And guys, try to think, what did Daniel do here with white to play? And while you think, let's fix this. So one question, Daniel, while they're thinking is that, you became a GM, I think by the age of, was it 16 or 17?
17, just when I was turning 18.
Yeah, and you were very good. I think you also got a Samford Scholarship when you were 19.
Correct.
I think that was really that is given to the most talented chess players in the US, isn't it true?
That's
Samford.
correct.
And you had a tough choice, yeah. That should you continue your chess? I mean, full-fledged, or you also wanted to study and you decided to go to Stanford. I mean, was that not a tough decision for you?
It was a tough decision. And, in retrospect, a lot of people say, well, what would have happened if you didn't go to Stanford? Could you be 2,700? I don't really believe in, overly exploring alternate realities, because you can't predict what would have happened. You just don't know. Maybe I would have gone crazy. And in retrospect, I really do like my decision to go to college, because to me, it wasn't just about, learning and getting the degree. It was about the people that I met. It was about skills that I developed, which helped me tremendously now. I do a lot of teaching, and I credit, a lot of inspiring professors at Stanford for helping me become a much, much better explainer in chess. Even though they didn't teach me chess, teaching is a universal skill.
Right.
So in terms of the decision itself, my parents, of course, wanted me to go to college. Because, to them, and, I can't really blame them for that, because at that point, chess hadn't really exploded yet. And, making a living in chess in the US wasn't a particularly appealing path. And I had a lot of other interests. I was very interested in history. I wanted to explore computer science. And so it was kind of natural for me to go to college. And then I figured, it's not like I'll be 70 years old by the time I finish, unless I go to grad school, of course. And I can always go back into chess when I want to. But as I was in college, as I spent a couple of years at Stanford, the hunger for chess, it grew. The lack of tournaments, the fact that I wasn't playing as much blitz, that was eating at me. And by senior year, I was staying up until 3 a.m. playing blitz, and I was streaming. And chess just has a way of worming itself back into your life. It's like a friendly demon. It possesses you, and then it doesn't let go, but it brings you a lot of pleasure together with a lot of pain.
Friendly demon is a nice way to put it. Yeah, very nicely said. And guys, your time is up. So the third question here, Vaibhav, it's your turn now. What do you play?
Yeah, DC5.
Vaibhav wants to take the pawn on c5. Okay. Prakhar?
C4.
Sorry?
C4.
C4 for Prakhar. Okay. What about Biswa?
C3.
Sorry?
C3.
C3. Okay. C3 for Biswa and Anirban?
C4.
C4. Okay. So 2 C4s, 1 C3, and one more move was
DC5.
DC.
sorry, DC. Yeah. Okay, Danya.
That
Okay,
is
so-
really a subtle hint for my answer, but
So I'll start with D takes C5, and I'll give that a big fat 0. The problem with DC is that I'm sorry, I enjoy being this mean. This is what I really enjoy about being a chess coach. The problem is that it helps Black's knight get into civilization. Knight takes C5, and now if you play Knight C7, which looks tempting, unfortunately here Black takes on G3. And when there is such a capture that can happen on any move, it's important not to forget about it. The rook on H1 hangs, and if White takes the knight, then Black takes the knight on C7. Otherwise, if you don't play Knight C7, Black is going to play E5 and get control of the center.
Right.
So that doesn't quite work. Now let's get to the move C3. C3 is, I think, a very natural instinct. If you play the London, if you play and we did have a C3, right? No, I'm not hallucinating.
Sorry?
yeah,
We did have someone say
Yeah.
C3.
Yeah, Biswa.
Yes, I said C3.
C3 isn't so much a bad move, so much that Black can just continue developing bishop D7. And one annoying idea that White has to reckon with is the concept of Black playing C4. So for example, let's say White plays bishop E2. Black doesn't have to play C4, but after C4, White plays A4, and then Black has this really interesting idea. So Black can start by taking the bishop on G3, and then play knight B8, which my opponent ends up playing in a different position. The idea is to play A6. That knight on B5 is going to be excommunicated to Siberia on A3. Black's knight is going to reroute to c6. And yes, even though you have the h file, it's not the end of the world for Black. And White has given up a little bit too much for that h file.
Right. And also you can't place your bishop so well on that diagonal.
Right. And queen c2 is not dangerous. It can be met with g6. So that's just sort of a one-move threat.
Okay. So c3 does not get a point.
So yeah, c3 and dc don't get points, and c4 is the correct move.
I'm actually very surprised that two of them got c4. Congratulations, Anirban and Prakhar. And could I ask them, like, what were they thinking behind this move? Yeah, Anirban. You are muted. Anirban.
Yeah, sure. Like I had 5 options, and then I went through all of them. And in c4, I figured that if c4 is captured, then my bishop gets developed. And if he takes d4, then also like I'm well placed because the knight is there, my e3 pawn is there. So it seemed the best option out of all the options I had.
Fantastic. Okay, and Prakhar?
The king side looks pretty stable. I don't need to move anything there. And on the queen side, c3 is met with, at some point, a c4 that's going to complicate my knight moving situations. And part of it is that if Black plays d, if cd, then I get knight development, both knights in the center. If Black plays dc, then I get my bishop out. And it's just, I just thought it's good pressure in the center, blocking the c-pawn from moving forward, keeping my knight alive. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't particularly have a movement as to where I'm going with this, but this just seems like the strongest move in the position.
Perfectly explained.
Wow.
I mean, that's really what I was thinking. And I also didn't know, okay, how am I going to continue? The point is that, yeah, I'm stopping c4. My pieces are just fundamentally more active than Black's. And so, when you're 3 years old and you're just learning how to play chess, one of the first things you learn is, when you're more active than your opponent, you want to open up the center. You want to, by opening up the position, you are allowing yourself to exploit the difference in piece activity more efficiently. And, that's what c4 does. And as both of you indicated, if d takes c4, then the bishop comes out, and that pawn on e6 is going to be a big weakness as well. So c4 was a move that I played really without much calculation. I just it felt right. And, it does turn out to be the only move that yields a clear advantage.
Right. Okay. So c4, a very strong move here by Daniel, and Ortiz continued with g6 here. And now bishop came to d3, and he took on d4, and here you decided to take back with the pawn, not with the knight. I guess that might have been an option, right, to think of.
Yeah, and Prakhar, I think, mentioned this move. The problem with knight takes d4 is that Black has e5. In fact, that is why Ortiz played g6, so that the knight on h5 isn't hanging here. And this gives Black control of the center. And it's a little bit awkward because you can't go back to f3 because of the fork. And if you go back to b3, then Black can actually get that bishop out from c8 to e6. And you've given Black, pretty good development. So for that reason, I decided to take back with a pawn.
Right. Okay. So you took with the pawn. And now knight went back to b8. And actually, if you look at the game in isolation, knight b8 looks like a weird move. But since we are following this now for, quite some time, we understand that he wants to kick your knight away.
And get his own knight to c6.
Yeah. And also...
And again, knight c7, knight takes g3 is important.
Correct. So this knight is coming here. And Danya castled and knight c6 was played. And guys, here is your fourth moment for thinking white to play. What do you do in this position? And maybe 2 minutes here, Daniel?
2 minutes, yeah. Okay. It's a pretty simple move, and it's straightforward, but it shows that you understand the direction in which white should go in this position.
Okay, it's a simple move, and maybe here you could, I'm excited to listen to your Russian explanations. So, just in case.
Well, in such positions, you have to understand that you have to attack weaknesses, and very simply you have to identify the weaknesses in opponent's position and exploit them very efficiently by activating the pieces. This is sort of a generic accent. This is not nobody in particular.
This is no one. Okay.
This is a generic chess player. But well, when I attack, I try to play as efficiently as possible. Of course, if you win, you win. If I lose, I lose. And that's all that I have to say about the situation. And well, no, that's it. I'm a man of few words and many actions.
Guys, who
My
is
name
this?
is Alexander Grishuk. I gave it away.
Amazing.
But when I watch Naroditsky play, what really strikes me about Naroditsky's style is the fact that he is a kind of a time player. He loves to flag people, and frankly, the play is quite superficial, leaves a lot to be desired. And I really don't recommend his games to aspiring juniors.
Oh man, this was so good. Kasparov.
That was a good one.
Wow.
Damn right.
Yeah.
That's how it all started. I was like, I want to learn Gary, and then everything went from there.
Yeah, I mean, Gary, I haven't seen anyone do that. I mean, Grishuk, many have tried, I guess, but Gary is not easy, and it was perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, guys.
See, I distracted everybody from thinking about the move.
But I guess this one they are going to hopefully get it right. Let's see, Prakhar, starting off with you. Rook E1 is Prakhar's move. Okay, very simple choice by him. What about Biswa?
I want to play C5.
C5 is what Biswa wants to do. Okay, Anirban?
C into D5.
Anirban wants to take on D5. Okay, and Vaibhav?
C5.
C5 wants to be played. Okay. Daniel.
Okay, so let's start with the move C5. C5 is a move that now I gotta, get away from Kasparov. I feel like I have that intonation now. C5 is a bad move.
You could do that. You could do that.
It releases the tension too early, and but after E5, Black has overtaken the initiative. So, but in all seriousness, after E5, D takes E5, Knight takes G3. You have to take back, and then Black plays F takes C5, and you've given Black this monster center. So it's actually crucial to keep the pawn on C4 for the time being as an antidote, so that Black isn't able to play E5.
Right.
And for the same reason, C takes D5 is unnecessary because it allows E takes D5, and Black opens up the light squared bishop, which can then develop to G4. White is still better, no question about it, but preserving the tension is a better idea. And so Rook E1 is indeed the best way to do it, just piling on the pressure, pressuring E6, and basically tossing the ball back into Black's court and saying, try to make a move. It's not so easy for Black to make a move here, because if Black takes on C4, then once again, after bishop takes C4, the pressure on E6 essentially becomes unbearable.
Right. Yeah, Rook E1 is a very straightforward move, but sometimes it's difficult to make such moves, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you overthink it, right? You're like, it can't be that simple. The solution has to be more complicated than that. But one thing I've learned throughout my chess journey is that the hardest moves to make can sometimes be the simplest ones, because you convince yourself that they're not good, when in fact they are.
Right. Okay, while they think, like for the next one, do you recommend that they should kind of think of many options and then zone in like the candidate moves and think that way? Because I see Anirban is noting down, I think, the options. Yeah, he's writing down 4 to 5 options and then choosing one of them.
My first option was Rook E1 only, and then I didn't go with.
I guess, it was a bit of a hint. Like when I mentioned that the move is pretty simple, that's a sign that, perhaps you can go for one of the first candidate moves you make, because often that's going to be the correct one. In more complex situations, of course, you kind of have to go through all of the options and you have to question your intuition. But, there's a lot to be said for the Nepo style of playing, just, 2 candidate moves, and which one appeals to you more, boom, you have an hour and a half at the end of the game. So you can make a career out of that kind of play too.
Yeah. Okay. So after Rook E1, Ortiz finally decided to get rid of this bishop, Knight G3, H3, and then he played Rook F7. Why did he do that? Maybe Bishop F8 was his idea.
Yeah, he wants to retool his pieces, Bishop F8, and then potentially Knight from C6 to E7 to support the D5 pawn. So he's just sort of trying to, use the limited space at his disposal and make the most of it.
Okay, so you went back now. Finally, you're like, okay, you're not kicking my knight
right.
away, so I'll anyway go back.
I went on my own volition, and of course, I'm trying to put more pressure on d5.
Right, bishop f8, and you gained space with b4. Very logical play, knight e7. He went queen to b3, and now king g7 was played. And guys, this is your fifth moment of thinking here. What should white play in this position? Daniel, what do you think? How much time should we give?
Let's do 3 minutes in this position. And the thing that I'd say, the funny thing is I didn't execute this plan in the most accurate way according to the engine. So what I'll do is I will accept, the move that I played as full credit, but I'll also give the option of proposing a plan in addition to the move. What's important in this position is to figure out a way to break through black's defense. Like at this point, you have to generate a specific sequence that's going to allow you to break through.
Okay.
And if any of you can do that, then I'll give you full credit as well.
Right. So couple of options here, and while they are thinking, Daniel, I wanted to ask you, I was talking to a few of my friends in the US at some point, and they said to me that young kids who take up chess, they kind of idolize your journey in chess because you became a very strong GM, 2650, and also you managed to balance your education. And I think that is some kind of dream for many youngsters. And it's not easy, to do what you did. But do you think what you did was more special than, let's say, just pursuing one path?
Well, I think everyone has the path that they embark on, and it's hard to compare paths. I think everyone takes the path that they're ultimately meant to take. But the thing is, first of all, I think when I work with kids nowadays, I'm always shocked at the increased number of extracurriculars, and the colleges are becoming more and more competitive. So now, whereas I just had school and chess, and I also did basketball in 10th grade. Big basketball fan, by the way. But nowadays, there's tennis at 4 o'clock, and then piano at 5 o'clock, and swimming at 6 o'clock, and then by the time they get to their homework, not to mention chess, it's already 11 p.m. So I know some kids with crazy schedules. For me, it was very important to define, a clear set of priorities. I'm doing school and I'm doing chess, and school always comes first. But my parents were very helpful in this regard, not layering on, 5 other extracurriculars. And I think it's important to make that decision. Are you going to try to explore a bunch of things and try to be good at all of them, which is totally valid, or are you going to focus in on one path? And I think if you eliminate all of the other distractions, even if you go to a very rigorous school, which I did, and I had a lot of homework, but if you're very efficient about your time management, and you use the weekends well, the weekends are the golden time. I would wake up early, and I would just go from like 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I always feel like there's no excuse. Those hours are free. You can do homework in the afternoon. So I would always make sure to go really, really hard over the weekends, and to always play tournaments over school breaks. That was another rule that I adhered to. That way I didn't actually have to miss a lot of school. So I think people overthink it. I think a lot of kids think it's impossible, but if you put these component pieces together, I think it really is still possible to balance school and maybe not necessarily become a GM, but definitely to succeed in chess.
Amazing. I have few more questions on that, which I will ask you, but right now, the time is up, guys. And Biswa, we now move again to you. It's your move. What do you do here with white?
He takes d5.
C takes d5 is what Biswa wants to do. He wants to take. Okay. Anirban?
Knight e2.
Knight e2. Okay. Vaibhav?
Knight e2.
Knight e2 by Vaibhav as well. And Prakhar?
Rook a c1, but eventually going for c into d of some kind, but rook a c1, still
Rook a
trying to
c1.
put my rook on an open file in case I take c into d or d into c happens at some point.
Okay. Okay. So these are the 4 answers. I don't know if Daniel got what he was looking for in any of them, but let's see. They're interesting suggestions.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm going to give knight e2 half a point because I actually consider that move. And the idea is, the general idea here is correct. You have to do something with that e6 pawn. Fundamentally speaking, okay, in order to break through, that's going to be the keys to the city, right? That e6 pawn. This tries to get the knight to f4. The reason I rejected it is because of a specific line, knight e2, d takes c4, bishop takes c4, black plants the knight on d5. And then white can dislodge that knight by going knight f4. You have a trade on f4. What I was worried about during the game, and this is indeed quite annoying, black can give away the e6 pawn, but in return, get a little bit of counterplay and simplify the position. So rook e7. You have a mass trade on e6, so bishop e6, then black trades everything. And at the end, black strikes with a5. And if b5, then black can fix a weakness with a4, and black also controls the d6 square, which is going to make it hard for white to push that d pawn past d5. So it's plus over minus, no question that white is much better here, but it's not the most that white can make out of the position. Wow. So I'll give that half a point.
One question I have, Daniel, is how can one, look at, like, you can see this forcing line, but then when you play a move like a5, even after being a pawn down, and consider it for your opponent as a defense, and then not go for it, how does one develop that?
It's a lot of it is just aiming for perfection and not stopping at the first sign that things are going well, right? A lot of people would stop after queen takes c6 because, oh, you're up a pawn. But if you compare that to the initial position, you always have to understand, I think, what you're aiming for. And I wasn't just aiming for a position where I'm up a pawn. I was aiming for a lot more than that. I mean, I judged that my pieces are so much more active. Black is so passive here. I just wasn't satisfied with an extra pawn. And there's a Polish GM, Krasenkov, who was a big proponent of this, essentially setting an objective for your calculation. What do I want to achieve? And then judging your options based on whether you achieve it. So, that line is tough to calculate, and a5 took a lot of stubbornness to find. But ultimately, it was just because I wanted more than just, an extra pawn.
Right. Okay. Got it. The next move suggested was CD.
So CD, I don't think is very effective. I think it actually helps black. Black can play knight takes d5. And, if you have a trade on d5, after e takes d5, again, the bishop opens up. The pawn on d5 is not so easy to attack. And at this point, I already don't think the black is much worse. So it's too early to release the tension.
Biswa, why did you take on there on d5?
Nothing. I was just trying to calculate, couldn't find anything. And then this is the only line I was calculating, so I didn't have any other options.
Okay.
That's the only reason.
And rook ac1 by Prakhar.
So I'm going to give that move full credit. Rook ac1 is actually the top move.
Wow.
And rook ac1, and the reasoning is correct as well, just improving the position, getting control of the c file, and keeping white's options open. And this very Russian move, improve position, intensify pressure, and simply watch opponents suffer. The move that I played was more targeted at a particular plan. So the move that I played was rook e2. It's a move played in the same spirit. I'm going to double on the e file. And I didn't know at this point what it is that I wanted to do exactly. I thought, okay, I'm going to double rooks and then I'm going to c. And what makes, I think, positional chess so hard for a lot of people is that they want to know what they're doing. They want to have a clear plan. And sometimes you got to go one step at a time. Sometimes you don't know the whole territory. You got to make these slow improving moves and believe that when you get to the critical moment, something is going to manifest itself.
So it's like when they have to make their next life decision, they want their entire life's journey to be in front of them, but it's actually just taking one step at a time. Okay, I'll do my high school, then I'll do my university, something like that.
Yeah, a lot of people were at, what's your 5-year plan? And called, where do you see yourself at 35? I don't know. That's not my philosophy of life. And it's not my philosophy of chess. I'm not, I think it's this idea that you have to think of everything, at the start is a little overrated and it's impractical. That's not how modern chess, works.
Right. Okay. Very interesting. Just one move I had in mind, and I don't know if that makes sense. Is G4 any good? Because I'm trying to create a weakness on G5.
Yeah, G4 is a great move as well. The reason I rejected that one was similar to why I rejected knight e2, but G4 is among the top moves. So D takes C4, bishop C4. And then I thought after knight D5, knight takes, e takes, bishop takes, rook, can go, for example, to e7. And I thought the pawn on g4 could end up being a little bit weak at the end of this line, but the engine likes g4 as well, and it would have been a full-fledged alternative to rook e2.
Okay.
Hey man, you guys just said don't have to calculate everything till the end of your life, and then
and then what do I do?
some
I
19
calculate
moves
everything till the end.
in some 5 different variations.
It's like how the stereotypical question at an interview is, where do you see yourself 5 years away? It's like every move, where do you see yourself 13 moves away?
No, every time you calculate, Sagar says, don't calculate. And every time you don't calculate, why don't you calculate?
Yes, this is simply preliminary small calculation. Yeah, this is not a real calculation.
Okay, so moving on to the game, rook e2 was played by Daniel, and then his opponent played bishop d7, trying to finish his development. Rook a e1, rook went to c8, and now finally you decided to kind of give up the tension in the center.
This was a very important decision. This was the position I was proudest of during the game and afterward. And this decision makes absolutely no sense unless you are aware of what I played next, which of course is going to be the next question. Because you might be like, well, wait a second, I'm building up all of this pressure on d5. And what do? I give all of it away by playing c5. What the heck am I doing?
Right.
Well, at this point, I'd already prepared the subsequent idea. So I won't reveal anything about it.
Yes, very important. And Ortiz was like, okay, everything is stable in the center. Let's go.
Time to improve my position. Yeah,
and knight will come to g6 perhaps now, and everything will try to, he tried to unravel.
Yeah, slowly but surely he's going to unravel. And I could tell he was very surprised at c5 and pleasantly surprised. And then came a cold shower.
Okay, so this time I'm going to give you guys 4 minutes for this one to think. Try to think, what does white do in this position? Perhaps one of the most important moments in the game. Daniel, I had one question to you. When I think about you and I see the journey of another grandmaster who is from India, Parimarjan Negi, you would know him, I believe, because
of course,
in a way, you see, he was a prodigy. He reached 2680. He also studied in this amazing school. I think he was in MIT, correct? And then maybe
he was Stanford for undergrad and then MIT.
Yeah, he went to Stanford and then MIT. But somehow, when it comes to chess, you both have different philosophies, right? While he kind of got a bit tired of the game, your love for chess kind of keeps growing, and maybe now you are very much in love with the game even now. So how would you, I guess you might have even met him and spoken to him. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I definitely, I met him. We hung out quite a bit in Stanford, and he was extremely busy with his computer science degree. A lot busier than I was. I was sort of dilly-dallying around my history major, and I had a little bit more free time. But again, I think this goes back to this notion that everybody has their own path, and part of the reason that I fell in love with chess in a new way, and I was getting burnt out after high school. I took a gap year before college to play a bunch of tournaments. And at that point I was getting a little bit burnt out. But then I sort of discovered teaching. I discovered streaming. I discovered that I could basically play blitz for a living. And I discovered that there was this huge market in terms of sharing, my love and sharing my knowledge of the game. A lot of people would listen, and people wanted to listen to me talk about it. So I guess my love for chess grew in many different directions. I think Parimarjan has always been focused on a playing career, which is, of course, totally understandable. He, at his peak, and he still is a lot stronger than me, was close to 2,700.
Right.
And from that perspective, I totally understand a certain dose of frustration, because even as a 2,700, especially in the US, it's incredibly hard to get opportunities to play top tournaments. And, when you're in a university like Stanford, it's just not feasible, I think, to combine a computer science major with an active career as a player. So I totally understood where he was coming from, and I still enjoyed I really enjoyed hanging out with him, even though that was the path that he took. And I think he's been doing amazing, and MIT for graduate school is something that needs really no introduction or justification.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think he has also kind of broken many barriers when it comes to chess education, and at some point he was even bold enough to say, yeah, okay, I spent a lot of time in chess, but now new path for me, and that's always very tough.
And I think it's important to remember that when people do that, it doesn't mean the time spent playing chess was wasted. I think I don't think
this
that
is an important thing that you say, because many times people are like, oh, I have gone on this journey and I've spent so much time. If I leave it, it's wasted. Yeah, the thing.
I just don't have that view of life. I don't view it as sort of this transactional thing where, oh, if you didn't achieve X number, or you didn't make X dollars playing chess, then it was all for nothing. Of course, if somebody sets themselves the goal of becoming world champion, then you're setting yourself up for failure. But if you're setting yourself the goal of getting as far as you can and celebrating, your achievements, celebrating the fact that you are GM and you can always coach, you always have that to lean back on. And, you always have something to hang your hat on, even if you don't play for 50 years, being a GM is great. So I think that's the road that Parimarjan took. And I really admire him for that.
Yeah, very well put there. Well, guys, time is up. And
time for the big moments.
Anirban, right person to start off with. Let's see what Anirban says.
Okay.
No,
Bishop B5.
Okay, Bishop B5 is what Anirban wants to do. Okay, what about Vaibhav?
Bishop B5.
Bishop B5 for Vaibhav as well. Prakhar?
I think Queen C2 first and then Bishop B5.
Queen
But
C2.
before we move on, I
Yeah.
have a small fan confession to make. I once ate McDonald's with Parimarjan Negi when I was 12, and I could not believe I was eating McDonald's with Parimarjan Negi.
Yeah, I mean, when you were 12, Parimarjan was already close to be a GM, right?
I think he already was a Grandmaster.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought McDonald's was the issue here.
Were you imagining KFC?
No. I just was like, wow, I had no idea.
I have a similar story. I remember I was already a GM. I was playing a tournament in Qatar, and Magnus was playing there. It was one of the only opens that he played. Sagar, you probably know this tournament.
I was there. I was there. You played with Kramnik as well, right?
Yeah, and
Yes.
it was actually one of my game I showed all my students. It was an amazing game by Vladimir.
Yeah.
But at the end, after the last round, I decided to treat myself, go to a nice restaurant. And of course, Magnus Carlsen walks in 5 minutes later as I'm waiting for my food with his family. And the moment Magnus walks into any space, I was slouched in my seat, kind of on my phone. The phone's put away. I'm like, back is super straight. I've got a knife and a fork, like my mother taught me. And even though he doesn't really care that I'm in the restaurant, there's just this effect when Magnus walks in, you just feel this incredible anxiety, but in a good way. Like, oh my goodness, Magnus Carlsen also has to eat food sometimes. It's like that feeling of seeing your teacher in a grocery store for the first time. Oh, it's a common experience in elementary school. Like, oh, my teacher also has to eat, and I got that sense as well. So that was a funny experience.
I think it's more like seeing your teacher at the gaming arcade. Oh.
Right, like, oh my goodness, my teacher does something other than teach all day.
Okay, very nice. And generally, you are unable to, go and talk to him there, although you have so many things to say, but it's not easy.
You want to request an autograph, but you keep that all in your head. Of course, you would never get up and actually talk to him.
Yeah. Well, you see, while we were talking and enjoying, each of us, Biswa, who usually who enjoys stories and takes part, he's like, oh, my chance is still left. I have to get the right move. He didn't even flinch for a second.
I love the dedication.
Okay,
She
Biswa.
can't find the move, but my move is very bad, but B5.
Sorry, B5 for Biswa. Okay, so 3 moves on the B5 square, 2 with the bishop, 1 with the pawn. The last one by Prakhar was Queen C2. Okay, Daniel, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so let's start with Bishop B5, because the idea of Bishop B5 is very good to trade the bishop, and then if the bishops are traded, then E6 is going to be indefensible. The problem is Black has this move Knight C6, and White ends up kind of stuck because now you can't play B5, and White hasn't really made any progress. In fact, Black is the one who's made progress, because now Black is threatening G4, and then you might end up experiencing problems with your D4 pawn. You certainly don't want to trade the bishop for the knight.
Right.
So, Bishop B5 is a good thought, but doesn't get the job done. I think
Just
pawn
one
B5.
question when you said this, that you don't want to trade. Like, for example, this is a closed position, right? So having the knights, wouldn't it be better than the bishops? Like, he's forced to take with the pawn or the rook. He can't take with the bishop because he's 6 hands.
Yeah, it's true. He has to take with a pawn, but I actually think this concept is a little overrated of, you want to have knights in close positions. Yeah, that's true sometimes, but you always have to, when you think about having knights, you have to think about which squares they have access to. And here, if you look carefully, the knight on f3 is limited by the pawn on f6, which controls e5 and g5. The knight on c3 is limited by the pawn on d5 and the pawn on c6. So in name only, yes, white's knights are more active than black's bishops, but to use one of my favorite quotes, bad bishops defend good pawns, and the bishop on d7 is doing kind of yeoman's work protecting e6 and c6, and black is quite solid. Also, black can later on potentially go e5 because the d5 pawn is now going to be protected. So that's another headache that white has to worry about in the long run.
So I like this quote. It's not just that knights are better in closed positions. It's also that knights need outposts. So if you have knights, you need good squares for them as well. Okay. And what about the other moves here? b5 was another move suggested.
So b5 is very decent. I mean, it preserves a big advantage. And but the issue is that it doesn't, I mean, I don't really see a follow-up to b5. Black can move the king to h8, for example, intending bishop g7 and knight g6. And I mean, you can play a4, but the pawns are going to stop there. a4, bishop g7, and then you won't be able to go c6 and you won't be able to go a5. So pushing the pawns on the queen side is a typical plan in general, but not the right approach here.
Okay. And Prakhar said queen c2.
So queen c2 is actually a very, very reasonable move. But after knight g6, I would give credit if, I mean, the best move here is the move that I played before queen c2. Yeah, bishop b5 now. There's actually, so there's an interesting idea. Bishop takes b5, knight takes b5, queen d7. Tricky defensive option. And if you take a7, your knight gets trapped after rook a8.
But
I mean, white is c6 here, but it gets complicated. And if the knight moves back, then you have rook e8, and black manages to defend e6. White is still better, but black is making some progress.
I see.
But why did you say queen c2, Prakhar? Any reason?
The same. Tempt knight g6 and then
you wanted the knight to go there and then bishop.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a very, I mean, I really like that thinking.
Right. The other two options are king g8, king h8, which is also not bad because then I can have rook h1 at some point and pressure h7 later on. I'll have to find how because the king's kind of, trapped. But like, then I have a clear weakness on h7 I'm attacking.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Daniel, what did you say in the end? What was the move you said? Because like I got confused. We started.
So after queen c2, knight g6 is the best defense, I think.
No, as in like before we start talking.
What did I play?
Yeah, this is this move, guys, is going to change a little bit of your understanding of chess. So please pay attention. And Daniel, what did you do?
So of course, my friend Sam Shankland, who you guys probably have heard of, he's a big advocate of this. Essentially, one way to work on your creativity and your understanding in chess is to question what you think is impossible and question your very basic assumptions about the position, about what you should do. So, for example, you know that you want to win the e6 pawn. And the first thing the leap that your brain makes is, okay, I need to trade the bishop on d7. But let's question that assumption. Do we actually need to trade the bishop on e7? What if we take on e6 immediately? What if we positionally sacrifice in exchange? And if you consider this option, I claim that you will quickly begin to see how totally dominating this option is. And this is what I played, rook takes e6.
Wow.
Very nice.
Wow.
And there's a couple of things to keep in mind. So bishop takes, rook takes, right? First of all, it's not such a huge deal. You're not sacrificing a queen. You're sacking in exchange for a pawn. The second thing is if you look at the pawn on d5, that pawn is a sitting duck. It is totally isolated and it's going to be lost. And if you think in the long run, once that pawn is lost, the a2, g8 diagonal will be opened. Guess what? You can later get the bishop from d3 to a2. And we're going to have a massive, massive pawn center. That d pawn is going to go d5, d6. And combine all of that with the fact that black is totally tied down, passive, and barely can make a move here. So this is largely an intuitive sacrifice. Yes, I did some calculation. I found some ideas, but the point of this, and this is why I'm proud of this game, I have a lot of nice attacking games, but in this game, I feel like I really demonstrated good understanding of the position, which really is also has always been my main weakness. I've always loved the explosive tactical sacrifices, and I've struggled to find positional sacrifices. So this was an exception.
Amazing. And I just want to see what our chat did on this. I mean, mostly everyone said bishop b5. There
But
was
rook
queen
takes c6 was
There
a
were,
move. So
yeah,
I'm impressed.
guys, Mahesh, IDK, Debru,
Nice.
Vikash, Nitish, Vinil, Ashutosh, Arush, Shashank, and I hope they didn't write it after you said it, but Surya Narayan, well done. Okay, so back to the game, and so no points for this for any of the moves, right? Bishop b5, queen
Yeah,
c2, or
I'll be strict here.
Daniel started off by saying I'm very soft and I'm very kind, but he has not been. I mean, he's very strict.
I'm gaining confidence,
Like it.
I'm
Like
gaining
it.
confidence. But rook takes c6, I think, here it's sort of this move is so overwhelming that everything else in comparison, I think it's like a lot of other moves keep an advantage, but this is the only move that is totally decisive.
Nice. Okay. So Ortiz now played a6. He was like, let's keep the pawns in check. You went back with your idea, which you had just mentioned right now.
Yep.
That you want to put your bishop there. And now he played rook to c6, offering a trade. And guys, this is your sixth moment today. What do you do in this position? And what time should we give, Daniel?
Let's give another 4 minutes. And this was, I'll say, and maybe this will act as a hint, this was my sort of proudest moment. This is the reason why I decided to show this game.
Okay.
In conjunction with rook takes c6.
Okay, so this was another critical moment of the games. And guys, while you are thinking, Daniel, one of the things which I wanted to know is now what you are doing. I know that you don't think ahead of time and you take it step by step, but are you enjoying it to such a level that what you're doing, that you are going to make this your career, like what you are going to do this for the rest of your, for few years in the future? You are streaming, right? Mainly you're streaming. You're also teaching. And I guess you play tournaments in between, but it's not your main thing.
Right. So I do 5 things total. Like there's streaming. There's now commentating. I do a lot of commentating. I recently became Chess.com's lead commentator. I do teaching, so I do private coaching, and of course I get tons of lesson requests. I'm incredibly busy, and I have to be very selective. So I work with a couple of very talented junior players. I work with a couple of people locally here in Charlotte. But teaching is really my original passion, and I feel like if I don't teach, and I tried basically saying I'm not going to have any in-person lessons, or no like one-on-one lessons, and I found myself missing it. So I do that. I still do play occasionally. I want to play more, and
you beat Caruana or whenever you get some time.
So it told me that I still have some gas left in the tank, and I want to play Reykjavik in March. So I definitely want to play a couple of tournaments this coming year, and maybe at some point the balance is going to shift. I know I'm going to be doing this for the next couple of years. The question in my mind is what's going to be the balance of these activities. Am I all of a sudden going to say I want to play for a year and I want to try to hit 2,700? Am I going to, just want to teach? I don't know. I'm sort of exploring. And obviously this comes with a ridiculous schedule. I'm working 12-hour days, 7 days a week.
Really?
Yeah.
No breaks,
I'm really pushing myself to the limit. And, the most important thing is I am trying to get enough sleep, which doesn't happen. I still have time to hang out with friends. And I have a lot of good friends here in Charlotte who are chess players. So I have a really nice group, and I wish I spent more time with them. But I feel like now, these are the few years where I really want to make an impact, where I want to establish myself. And, as I get closer to my 30s, I know for a fact that I'm going to dial it back at some point. This is not sustainable. But what I really want to figure out is, what is going to be the balance of these activities. I also am very active on YouTube, and I've been putting out a lot of videos. So one day, if I hit 1 million subs, that's my lifelong dream, to do it without,
I guess it'll happen
without
soon.
clickbait.
Without clickbait. Yeah, that's very important, because generally it's like 1 or 2 viral videos and it grows, but you have this philosophy, you don't want any clickbaits.
Yeah, and I want to be very clear that I'm not this some sort of, I don't operate on another dimension. I like making money, and I wouldn't necessarily teach for free, and anybody who kind of claims those types of things, I think is a fraud. And I think it's totally natural to want to be successful in that way, but I draw a line, and I probably could have 500K subscribers if I had a video titled I simuled Beth Harmon and Magnus Carlsen in my dream and won 15 times. And there's nothing wrong. I don't begrudge people who have those types of videos. And I want to make that very, very clear. Again, everybody has their own path, and it's not my right to criticize others for the path that they take. This is just who I want to be. And if it means 200K less subscribers, but more high quality videos and videos that deliver on the promise of their title, I'm going to be happier as a person, even if it means, I can't afford a palace in Manhattan. So.
I guess at the end of the day, you are happy with the kind of comments you get, because then the community that you're building is more focused on what you're actually delivering.
Yeah, and I love the community that I have on YouTube, on stream. The people, the comments are so generous. I read all of them, and they're just uniformly so kind, and it's so great to get messages from people like, I started watching your speedrun videos. I went from 800 to 1600. I mean, it's crazy, and it warms my heart. I mean, this is what keeps me going ultimately. And of course, the wonderful support from the community, financially speaking, as well. But this is ultimately my goal, is to leave a legacy of a massive amount of information that can help people one day get from total beginner to expert and master. I'm nowhere close to that yet, but I'm putting together the building blocks.
Great vision there. 4 minutes have been completed, guys, and we have Vaibhav this time who's going to start off. Vaibhav, what's your move?
Just couldn't find out a good move. But rook takes on e7.
Rook takes. Vaibhav is like, one exchange sacrifice not enough. Let's give one more. Okay, Prakhar.
Let's do two. Okay.
Bishop f5.
Bishop f5. Okay, interesting move. And Biswa.
Oh.
Yeah. What was that? I mean, I don't know. Prakhar.
No, I blacked out. That's fine.
You blacked out.
Yes, I blacked out totally on the night there. I did not even like. My bad.
Queen c2.
Queen c2 for Biswa. And Anirban. I mean, Anirban, you're muted here.
Rook e7. Rook into e7.
Rook takes e7. Okay.
Wow.
I think Vaibhav and Anirban, maybe you guys can tell us, why did you want to give up your rook for another minor piece?
So first I tried to calculate queen c2. And I saw that the knight just comes to g6, and then there's just no way to push this any further. I mean, I couldn't find any, at least. There might be. And then I saw that, my rook is getting exchanged, and this rook is basically not being able to do anything on e6. So I figured the knight is the one which is causing all the problems. It is protecting d5. It is also protecting the pawn on h7 from getting captured or being threatened. And I just started calculating, if I capture it, either bishop takes or queen takes, either way, I lose d7, d5 with tempo. And once I get that tempo, I push queen c2. And now if he pushes f5, I already have takes on g5. The knight takes g5 with the threat, and with the threat of taking on f7. And then I just couldn't calculate any further. Like, this is where I stopped.
Okay, very interesting bit of calculation. And Anirban?
Yeah, the idea is to remove the knight so that the bishop and the queen on this diagonal, like, I also haven't calculated fully, but I thought you can remove the knight, then you have a bishop, queen, knight to attack. So, like, put pressure that way.
Okay. Daniel, over to you.
So bishop f5, we're not going to talk about that. That is a brilliant move, which, I'll leave it up to Gary to explain that one. The only reason I'm giving you a hard time, Prakhar, is because you're in the lead. You can afford to take the hit.
Daniel, once Prakhar was playing a game against Samai, and Gary actually came and commentated on that game.
Oh my God.
And so he has...
It's the peak of my life.
Just a second. Yeah,
I think...
Daniel, you can continue.
I think there are times...
and funny...
Sorry,
go on.
And I was just saying, like, maybe someone made such a horrendous move that Gary just did not, like... He's like, I can't take this. I have to interfere. I have to do this for chess. I cannot.
He calls in from Manhattan. He's like, I want to be on this game.
It's like there was a decent position and someone just ruined it by making a blunder. And like, I have to tell this person for the sake.
Right, he couldn't hold it in. Well, it's funny. I met Gary for the first time years ago. I was about 10. He used to host a masterclass in New York where he was living at the time for like top young players. And everybody would fly to New York. It was at this very swanky office building. And he made several people cry, including me.
Really?
Because he was very temperamental. I went to that session 3 or 4 years in a row. It was a 2-day session where you had to present 3 or 4 of your games, and he would analyze it in front of everybody. And Gary, I mean, sometimes he was in a great, I mean, the first time he walked into the room, oh my God, and Gary Kasparov walks and everybody's mouth drops open. You know, by the second year, I kind of got used to him, but there was one year where Gary was just in a bad mood. And I think everybody in the chat, you know, can sort of imagine Gary in a bad mood. He has a lot to handle. And I was showing my games and he was just kind of barking at me
like this.
And he was just like, you know, this is from one of the good years. And at one moment he's like, what do you play with black against c4? I said I play the Najdorf. What do you use to learn the Najdorf? And at that point I was reading a book by 2 Spanish grandmasters, which I still have and I still like. And I said, I'm reading A Mastering the Najdorf by Arizmendi, and I don't remember the second name. Why are you reading this, you know, this garbage? You should be looking at Topolov's games and my games. And then, you know, he was really getting at me for some of the moves in my game. And now I look back on it with a smile because that was really a formative experience. But back then, I think Ray Robson and I and Robert Hess, we were all sort of tearing up by the end of that session.
Yeah, that I mean, he's brutally honest and he doesn't sugarcoat things,
which I like.
So, yeah, which is very nice.
Yeah, you don't go to a Kasparov session to, you know, for him to make you feel good. But to get back to the game, so Queen
C2. Before Daniel gives the answer, I just want to say one more move without points.
Okay.
Sure.
Which is knight
G5.
G5.
And if F takes?
Okay.
That's what I don't know what to do.
If F takes, then Queen C2.
Okay, and if
King H8.
I mean,
King G8.
King H8, yeah.
And then
Okay.
I think I know what you wanted, but even Knight G6 is fine there.
Yeah.
Even Knight G6 is fine.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
So Queen C2, again, there's King H8 and white doesn't accomplish too much. In fact, the king is now safer. The move is indeed Rook takes E7. I am super impressed.
Congratulations to Anirban and Vaibhav. Well done, guys.
Second exchange sacrifice. And I remember when I got the idea to play this move, like, I'm crazy. There's no way this is going to work. I'm sacking 2 exchanges. Am I hallucinating? Like, is this just insane? Because I'd never done this before. I'd never sacrificed 2 exchanges, both positionally. But the longer I looked at the position, the more it occurred to me that white is just completely winning. And in fact, this is the top computer move, and it's the only move that wins in a clear-cut fashion. So bishop takes E7, or sorry, he played queen takes E7. It doesn't really matter. Knight takes D5, queen E6. And as was indicated, now my knight is pinned, but I have this crucial move. This is not what we're actually asking, right? This next move.
So this one, queen D3, threatening a
Queen
mate
D3,
in
getting
one.
out of the pin.
And I guess this is the 8th moment, guys, that you have to think. You get 2 minutes only for this one.
Yeah, because I think if you come up with the right move here, it, like, after the next move, it becomes very clear why white is totally dominating in spite of being down 2 exchanges.
Right. And just here, I think the last one, there were a few people who got rook e7. So Christian,
Nice.
Tushar, Saurabh, Rohan, Amol, PM. Well done, guys. Congrats for finding that. Okay. Back to this one. And this is the 8th moment, and I guess one of the most crucial from the perspective of converting an advantage here.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy move to play, but it makes the most sense.
Okay, so this is a key moment. And you know, Daniel, there are these a lot of people who ask questions, and I'm sure you get it as well, how to improve at chess and at differing levels. Do you ever try to attempt to answer those questions, or is it more like you are a doctor and you need to see the patient before giving the prescription, you know, what medicine that person should take or what books he should be reading?
Yeah, I mean, I've been more honest as I've gotten older. When I first started teaching, I wanted to be the guy who gives this general advice that always works. And, you know, I wanted to say that I know the secret, I know the pathway. And again, my hope is that one day I will be able to give a full prescription, a full training course from the moment that one is a total beginner to master. And this is what I'm working on with the speedrun and what I'm working on with other stuff. But I really think that people need to understand that even if you tell me your rating, you know, even if you say I'm 1700, what do I do to hit 2000? I get so many of these questions on my stream. And I can give general advice, but anybody can give that advice. Solve regular tactics. You know, go leadchess.com, solve tactics, try to do it every day. There are universally recognized chess books that are really, really good at certain levels. For instance, if you're a club player, 1800, there's a book called Chess Strategy for Club Players
Yes,
that I could highly recommend.
I actually saw that, and I kind of took a. I just wanted to confirm whether it was this one. I think I had taken it is by Herman Gruten, yes?
Yeah, Herman Gruden is a Dutch IM, and it's sort of like a Bible of positional chess. You know, you can learn openings on Chessable, but a lot of people, they're looking for something more specific. They're looking for the magic bullet. And that's where I like your analogy. I am in that sense like a doctor. And until I've made a very careful examination, sometimes I study a student's games for hours and I still feel like I don't know what to recommend them. Knowing what to recommend someone, building up a training routine is a lifelong process. And I think a lot of people need to understand that there is no quote unquote right answer. I know it's a cliche, but you know, you're always making changes. Things that work for you when you're 1500 might not work when you're 1800. Things that work for one person, a particular book that might hit home for one person might be terrible for another. And there's really a lot of variety. And what's exciting about being alive today is that for every path that someone is meant to take, you have the materials accessible to you to go down that path. If you're a book learner, you have the books. If you're an online learner, you have videos. If you like learning by playing, you've got 15 different chess servers and you can have a game at any moment. So I would say a lot of experimentation and trust in oneself. There is no right answer. And I think people forget that they can lead their own party sometimes. They can be the ones to figure out whether something is working. Are you improving by doing this activity or not? It's not always so hard to determine. And so I try to encourage people to do that.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, one more point on that, but before we go there, let's get the answer to this one. Prakhar, what is your move?
I'm thinking knight c3.
Knight c3. Prakhar wants to get his knight back. Okay. What about Biswa?
Knight b6, I was thinking.
Knight b6. Biswa wants to put the knight there. Okay. Anirban? Anirban, hello. Okay, he's thinking.
Yeah, just pretty lost. Okay. Knight f6. Knight into f6.
Knight takes f6. Okay, wants to sack the knight. After 2 exchange sacrifices, wants to sack a piece. Vaibhav?
Not enough. You need more.
Vaibhav?
Yeah. I also don't have a move. Knight f6 is what I was calculating.
So you want to go with that?
Yep.
Okay, knight f6 for Vaibhav as well, sacrificing a piece.
Okay. Well, let me start with that f6. Unfortunately, there's queen takes f6, right? Rook f6, yeah, there's mate on h7, but after queen takes f6, it's just the idea of, I think everybody came up with the idea of moving the knight away from d5 in order to push the pawn to d5, but you know, there's no need to give the knight away. You can keep it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give half credit to knight c3 because it's on the right track, but as I'll explain, not the most accurate, but that's the right idea. You want to move the knight away to play d5. Knight b6 looks really good, but it allows black to give away one of his exchanges. Rook takes b6, and that knight is tremendously valuable. After c takes b6, queen takes b6, I would still probably take white, but it's not nearly as convincing as it would be as it will be in the game.
Okay,
so is the right move knight e3?
The right move is knight e3. And the reason to put the knight on e3 is, yes, first of all, you're threatening d5. You're going to shove that pawn through to d6, but that knight from e3 is going to leap into f5, which is a really juicy outpost. And in conjunction with a bishop that's going to land on a2, that's going to be a totally killer combination. I mean, that knight on f5 is going to be a beast.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got knight c3 because I wanted to do bishop a2, but like without knight c3, how do we move bishop a2 unless the queen
Well, the
moves?
thing is, the threat of d5 is going to force black's queen away from
Sure.
e6. So you're going to be able to play bishop a2 naturally once the
Right.
queen moves away from e6.
Right. Okay. So knight e3 was really a very nice move, looking at clearing the d pawn and also controlling the f5 square. And just to see, knight e3 was the top move in the
Nice.
chat. So well done, guys.
Hey,
Uh,
good stuff.
So let's go to the next phase of the game. Rook c8. He pushed the pawn, queen d7, and Daniel pushed it further. Now d6. The knight can come back to d5 or f5, and also the bishop's path is opened up this way.
Yeah, this is total domination. My opponent decides, sort of out of desperation, to give away, all of his extra material and try to transform the game into a harder to win position.
Oh, he first gives a piece and he then gives an exchange.
Yeah, this was very satisfying to like see my opponent have to give everything back.
But now it's like you're materially ahead.
Yeah, I'm materially ahead, and now is the moment where the fact that I put the knight on e3 really, really helps me.
Yes, knight went to
because
f5.
in comes the knight.
Queen e6, you came up. H5.
Yeah, threatening queen d8.
So now he has space here after a check. Knight d4, queen e5, and now, guys, this is your penultimate question here. Ninth move. Ninth question, what do you do in this position? It is white to play. And Daniel, what do you suggest time wise?
2 minutes for this one.
2 minutes. Okay. So one question, continuing what we were talking about, was that imagine that I put up some videos many times, and they are playing videos, and I get these comments like, oh, we didn't understand what the result was at the end, something like that. Two players playing, and it's like, did they offer a draw, who won? And I used to think like, how is it possible? And then one day I opened a Go video where people, not Go, they were playing, I think, checkers. Yeah. And I don't know the rules of checkers exactly. And there was this game, and it's very similar. There's a clock there, there's a board, they're moving pieces, and at the end they shook hands and then they just left. And I was like,
who wins?
Who won? Yeah, I didn't understand. And at that point I realized that if I need to improve at Go, at checkers, I don't know what is the way forward, and I would never know about it. And
right.
I think it's from that direction where people come and say like, we don't know what's the path.
Yeah, and chess is a problem. The thing is, because there's such a divide in terms of levels, and a beginner's path toward improvement is nothing like somebody who's 1300. What happens is that people even coaches very often take for granted that the majority of the people are going to know XYZ. And the challenge of teaching beginners, and this is a challenge that I've learned to embrace and a challenge that I really enjoy. And this is what I try to do in the speed run. The rule that I go by is every single statement has to be broken down. There's nothing, I don't allow myself to say anything about the position without first asking myself, is this intuitive? And in most cases, the answer is no. And even if I arrived at something intuitively, I try my best to find a pathway that would explain how my intuition arrived at it. Obviously, that's not always what actually happens. I'm not pretending that the way that I explain stuff in the speedrun is how I'm actually thinking about it when I'm playing. But a lot of the time, what I would compare it to is, at one point I wanted to learn Chinese. And there's this pinyin alphabet that's been developed to help people who know the Roman alphabet learn Chinese. It's basically a romanization of Chinese words. And that's how I kind of view the speedrun. If I were to just present my intuitive thoughts, they might be incomprehensible. So what I often try to do is create this bridge, translate my intuitive thoughts, my intuitive understandings into something that people can digest, even if they're relatively new to the game.
Amazing. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. This time it's Biswa. Biswa, what do? You have to finish off the game. You are better, but can you do that?
Man, I was listening, not even calculating. And at the last moment, I found what I had calculated doesn't work. But anyways, I'll just play queen c4 anyway.
Queen to c4 is Biswa's move. Okay. What about Anirban? Anirban still has an outside chance of winning this if he gets this one right.
Knight h6.
Knight h6 is Anirban's move. Vaibhav?
I also want to go queen c4.
Queen c4 for Vaibhav. And Prakhar?
Queen c4.
Queen c4. So 3 moves queen c4 and 1 knight h6. One of the moves is right.
One of the moves is right.
Yeah.
And the move that is right is knight h6. So the problem with queen c4, and I'll give queen c4 half a point because it's the right thought, right? You're trying to activate your pieces and infiltrate. But if you look concretely after queen c4, rook c7, there are no entry points.
That's what I saw at the last moment. This rook c7. Oh.
And if you go queen b3, for example, then black can get counterplay with h4. And guess what? I mean, if white allows h takes g3, the h file opens and white can get checkmated there with rook h7. So this gets a little bit annoying.
But knight h6, rook d7.
Yeah, so knight h6, rook d7 is the critical point. You have to look at that knight on h6. What squares is it controlling? The knight and the queen is the most dangerous combination in all of chess. You only need one knight to generate mating threats. And so the mating move here is queen g6. This is not what happened.
Wow.
And there's a nice line. Queen g6, black can play rook g7. I think a lot of people would go knight f7 check here and say, oh, I'm winning a piece. But if you look further, rook takes f7, and now queen f7, the d4 knight hangs, and white still has to do some dirty work here. The easier
Knight f5.
The easier move is queen takes h5 in this position. And the point is that if queen takes d4, knight f5, rook h7, and very important detail, desperado, queen takes h7, and then knight takes d4. And white is up a piece.
And if king g8 anyway, that wins. And I guess here, otherwise there's no other move like rook h7 or something. But
yeah, rook h7, I can go. Let me think about this for a second. I can go knight f7 check here.
Oh, knight f7.
Knight f7, queen h7, and knight e5. So this desperado idea comes in several times.
Nice. So knight h6 was played by Daniel, and now we have the scores going into the last question. 4 points for Anirban, 5 for Prakhar, 2.5 for Vaibhav, and 1.5 for Biswa. Let's see what the last one does. Rook f8 played, knight d f5, queen e6, queen f3, forking b7 and h5 here. He went queen e8. You snapped the pawn, and now queen g6. And guys, this is your last moment of today. Let's see if you can solve this one. What time to give Daniel here?
Let's do 3 minutes for the last question.
Okay, 3 minutes.
And I'm going to give a hint. Obviously, you can play queen takes a6 here, and you can win the pawn and white is winning, but there is a move that wins by force. There's a move that wins the game on the spot. And he resigned after this move. So, that's what you should be looking for.
Okay. And while they are thinking, Daniel, one question I wanted to ask is, a lot of people are watching this right now, and a lot of people will watch it later. Many people do follow you. But in general, would you recommend is the right way to follow the content that you're creating? Because as you said, you have so much that you're creating, your speed runs. I think you also stream on Twitch. So how should people follow you who want to improve at chess?
Yeah, so of course, there's people who watch me just because they enjoy the community and they enjoy the videos. And who am I to say why people should be watching? I love, every reason is equally valid and equally appreciated. But if somebody is truly, having the improvement mindset, first of all, I think it's important, to realize that the speedrun videos they can be binged, but I think it's better to watch them in a mindful way where you're pausing frequently and asking yourself questions. And if you do that, I feel like you'll be less tempted to watch 10 of them in one day. It's, wisdom is kind of like vinegar, right? You can have a little bit of it at a time, but if you're having too much of it, it becomes counterproductive. So what I would say is, as you're watching the speedrun videos, you can have a notebook where you write down some of the general points that I make. That's just kind of a no-brainer. That's something you should be doing throughout your training. You should have like a notebook of every interesting piece of advice, every interesting concept that you have, and that would be tremendously valuable later on as you're reviewing everything. But yeah, I mean, basically just active learning, pausing at various moments, seeing if you can guess my move. And you don't even need to pause for that. That's why I play longer games. It's because as I'm reasoning about my move, you can be following along with me. So I would recommend that people pretend that they're the ones playing the game. Like, put yourself in my shoes. What would you do? And if the move that you're coming up with diverges significantly from the move that I played, remember that you have at your disposal the tools to answer the question, right? You can plug it into an engine, you can analyze with an engine, and you can figure it out. Everything in chess nowadays can be figured out. You can figure out the reason behind why one move is good, why another move is bad. And so that should be, I think, the mission behind watching those videos. It should be to understand every word, understand every move, and to understand the ideas behind them. What is the specific reasoning that led me to play a particular move? And if your reasoning diverged from mine, and you've determined that you want your reasoning to be more like mine, what can you do to bridge the gap? What are the specific logical steps that you can take in order to change your mindset about a particular position? So there's a lot more I could say, but that's sort of a general overview.
Right. Yeah. Guys, as I've mentioned, his links to wherever he posts material that's on Twitch and YouTube are in the link, so you can go and check them out. And this is the last question now. Anirban, it's your move. What do you do here?
Oh man, is it Queen E7?
Anirban says he wants to move his queen to E7. Okay, Vaibhav?
Queen E7.
Queen E7 for Vaibhav as well. Prakhar?
Queen E7.
Prakhar also wants to play Queen E7. And Biswa?
Queen E7.
Oh man.
Wow, we have total consensus.
Either everyone is wrong or everyone's right.
Drum roll, please. Everyone is right. Queen E7 is the move.
Brilliant.
And very nice. And the point is that you're chasing the rook away. And if rook B8, there's multiple wins here, but the one that I was going to go for is knight F7, king G8, and then knight 5 H6. Oh, sorry. Yeah, knight 5 H6, king. Wait a second, let me remember. If king G7, then knight E5.
Yeah.
And you win the queen. I guess black has king H7 there.
But same, yeah? Like, still. There's queen
and I'm trying
G7.
to- Yeah, but then there's queen G7. I'm just trying to remember what exactly. Let me check.
Knight G5.
Double check. Knight G5, double check.
No, but king H6, right?
Yeah, there's king H6 there.
I see.
I guess you can play. Well, you can play knight F5 back. What was the move that I was? There is a forced win here that I thought. So let's go back to king G8 for a second, because my opponent resigned here. I mean, you can also win by playing.
Maybe queen C7 with the idea of knight E7.
Oh yeah, you can play queen C7.
Or is it?
Yeah, and if rook A8, you can play queen B7.
No, and if.
No, I think it is good. Rook E8, you can play knight E7 anyway.
Then take. And then you go into this pawn
endgame should be winning, yeah. Should be able to win. I mean, that's probably not the cleanest though. For some reason, I was under the impression that there was a more straightforward win after rook B8. Let me check. Yeah, so he resigned after queen E7. Yeah, so rook B8, knight F7 check, king G8. And then, the fastest win is actually queen E6 there. So queen E6 in this position.
Oh, beautiful. Threatening
and
this,
then,
and if you take here,
yeah, and if king H7, then knight E7, opening up the F5 square for the queen. That's actually the path. And if queen G7, then queen F5.
Yeah, that's what I know.
Right. No, that's what we all. Yeah, that's totally what I had in mind as well. Well done, all of you. Queen E7 is. I mean, I played queen E7 really without calculating concretely. I just saw that the F7 square became accessible, and even if I do nothing, it's totally winning. So he resigned.
Amazing. And just to show what that. Oof, man, that was a huge.
Wow, that was a big moment.
Yeah, everyone went for queen E7, and well done.
And then rook E8, there's knight F7 check,
Yes,
slicing
knight F7
the
check.
queen away. That's an important detail.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so guys, this was a tremendous session, and at the end we have Prakhar, who has won with 6 points, and Anirban, who is second with 5 points. Vaibhav 3.5, Biswa 2.5, and Daniel. What is your thought overall of their strength, and what do you think? Because they all are like very much in love with chess. They spend a lot of time on chess. And if
Well, I
you
can
have any suggestions or recommendations, that would be amazing.
Well, this was, first of all, this was, I had an absolute blast. And so many of these suggestions were, sometimes it wasn't the right move, but it was in the right ballpark. This is a very complex game, and I'm genuinely impressed. So, the passion really shines through. And I hope you found this game interesting, helpful, and you found the ideas to be interesting. So, I mean, game review is just an area that people don't really think about very often, but there are so many really good game collections out there. And a big part of my training routine at all times was to have some game collection that I was reviewing at that particular moment. I particularly like Shurov's Fire on Board. Kramnik has an excellent game collection. So just feeding your brain with stimuli from the top players, even if that's the only thing you do, you're going to improve from that. So looking over games, following top tournaments, and being in the loop, I think is an important aspect of training. That's what I would say. And I'm sure you guys do that anyway. So
I think it was like an incredible game. Like,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, especially that whole idea that the rook sacrificing twice. I mean, unless you said that sometimes things look damn crazy, but then maybe that it does seem to work. It's very interesting. Also, did you when you exchanged both the rooks, did you actually see it till the end?
Well, no, I mean, when I took on e6, I didn't see the second exchange sacrifice. When I had the second exchange sacrifice, I saw most of the ideas. Like I saw up until knight e3. And then I figured my pawn gets to d6 and it's going to be overwhelming. So that's kind of where I stopped.
This is incredible. What a fun game to see.
Yeah, it was tremendous. You
I'm glad you
usually
enjoyed it.
don't see two positional exchange sacrifices. Not they can be tactical, but positional.
Yeah, I was thinking of showing my game with Fabi or something more tactical, but I figured, this is one of my only, like, what I would consider to be really, really nice positional games in my career. So I kind of wanted to do that for a change.
Tremendous.
And like right up top, the knight going to, d5 and all. It's I rarely see people doing that up top in the game. This is so much fun to see. Damn nice. Thank you so much.
I'm glad. This was a pleasure.
Yeah, Daniel, it was tremendous having you, and I hope that many more people can go and check out what you are doing, because as Biswa said, as Prakhar has mentioned, they kind of have made it their routine to follow what you put up, and I'm sure a lot others will do as well. So thank you so much for being here and showing us this wonderful game. And maybe as a goodbye gift to everyone, you could get on the small accent of yours, which we love so much.
I would like to thank everybody for a massive support, and it was a great experience. It was a great experience to be on Chessbase India, and hopefully we can do more collaborations in the future. But really, Sagar, I just want to say you do amazing work. I recommend your channel to all my students, and this was so much fun. I'd love to do more collabs in the future, and just want to thank all of you guys and everybody in the audience for participating. This was so much fun.
Yeah, I have a super chat from audience Arjun Bharadwaj, who says Daniel Naroditsky is too good a teacher. Enjoyed this episode a lot. So
I think that is really true. Like you have a very evident flair for teaching, and that's probably why Oh My Lands and all the speedruns do so well.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky I get to do, I get to combine my two biggest passions. So it just feels natural to do this.
Man, I just have one thing to tell you. You should get enough sleep. Otherwise, on your 30th birthday, you'll wake up and you'll be like, why am I so dumb now? Right?
I'm already telling that to myself. So
yeah,
I think it's time to get on that train.
For a whole decade, I didn't have any sleep routine. And then suddenly one day I woke up and my IQ has become very low.
Well, mine is low to begin with. So, I don't really have much way to go down.
Yeah.
Well, okay. And by the way,
I was looking up Daniel's Instagram profile to follow him because I think you're damn funny, dude. Also,
I do. I don't have an Instagram. Like I don't have an active Instagram. So the best, I don't really keep social media accounts. I'm kind of old school. So like YouTube and Twitch are my main like sources of.
And I was thinking like how you said that you don't put out stuff like very often or like how you're selective in putting out whatever you do. Let me just inform everyone he has 0 posts on Instagram.
That's right.
Are you active on Twitter?
I have a Twitter. I used to post like when I would make YouTube accounts, but no, it's just like, I guess who I am. I feel like if I led an active Twitter and stuff, I'd get embroiled in controversies, and I just don't feel like that's my role on this earth,
I get it.
Even though I surf Twitter and stuff and I enjoy it, but maybe one day.
Oh man, somebody should just clip this and put this on Twitter.
Yeah.
Right. It is possible to lead an existence without Twitter.
I think it should be like a virtual T-shirt. I think there should be a virtual T-shirt saying that. Nice.
Yeah. And by the way, Prakhar, you get this book to study this, and if you do study this, I'm sure you will become very good at end games because it's very tough one, I guess. But
is this book signed by any chance?
I can send it to Daniel.
No. I'm going to fly back to New York in a couple of days.
Hey man, why every 5 minutes you keep talking about New York? I just want to know. Every 5 minutes is like, I fly to New York, then I fly back, then I fly to New York. I'm just like, a flyer of New York.
50%, more than 50% of my life is there. So probably why. But like, I would love if you are ever there, bro, or if I can ever come to Charlotte at that time, it would be a
You can come to Charlotte at any moment. Coffee on me, and
absolutely
I'll always be happy to sign your book.
Oh, great!
Well,
so yeah, Prakhar, then you'll get the sign, and when you meet him, we'll have a
we'll have to route in that direction.
We'll put a photo on Twitter.
That'll be my first Instagram post with Prakhar. Yeah, that'll be a worthy thing to post about.
Daniel, if you're ever coming to Dadar station, let me know.
I will.
Okay, Daniel.
On the horizon.
Thank you so much for being here, and once again, it was a pleasure having you.
Likewise, thank you, Sagar. Thank you, everybody, and hope we can do this again soon.
Sure. Bye.
Thank you, Daniel.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.
Hi guys, कैसा लगा game and मजा आया?
Too good.
Super game, man. I really like the way he explains and everything. I mean, he really can retain attention also while speaking, which is
It's too good, man.
Yeah. Like he's entertaining and very informative at the same time. Like most of the other sessions that we've done, like he's such a good orator that he teaches so well. Like every move, he's telling the right amount, not to reveal enough for the next move. But yet he informs you why it is correct in the position, which was really well done.
Someone in the chat has written, "Sone do usko." Uska to raat ho gaya, bhai. Hum log usko bita ke.
Yeah, it is 3 o'clock, I think, over there. But I guess आप लोगों ने सबने मतलब you guys did amazing. And although the points were pretty low, I think there were no suggestions which were like totally outright bad. I mean, it was very.
I would like to differ. I think I have made some 9 suggestions that were feedback, but like your positive attitude, Sagar Shah.
नहीं अच्छा
मूव जहाँ पे मतलब एक मूव सजेस्ट किया और फिर एक पॉइंट ले लो और फिर गेम खराब कर दिया तुमने ऑलरेडी. इट्स नॉट तीसरे मूव में गेम खराब किया.
पहला रूक सैक्रिफाइस में when Sagar said कि we are starting with Anirban, I immediately I was like कोई तो सैक्रिफाइस है लेकिन मेरे को तो नहीं दिखा. मैं तो कुछ और ही सोच रहा था.
मैं वही बोला. I made a mistake saying that they're starting with, but he didn't get it. Yeah.
No, I didn't get. I was not thinking only that.
Yeah, Prakhar, but Prakhar, are you spending as much time on chess? Like, are you playing a lot?
No, barely. Actually not. Yeah, I was surprised after like the third guess I got, and I was like, "Ye kaise ho raha hai?" Like, I had no idea. But I've barely played at all since the last COB.
Yeah, well, COB 6 might come soon, so already.
Are you still in college, Prakhar, or have you finished?
Yes. I have one
Still
more
in
semester
college?
left. One more semester left.
Undergrad or grad?
What are you studying?
Undergrad. I study psychology and economics. I was a CA student जब मैं यहाँ रहता था, and then I moved because I'd never done an undergrad, And so I started doing an undergrad. फिर COVID के
Wow.
चक्कर में कुछ हो गया, and I'm like one semester away from.
I was like, how much did you
finishing it.
smoke? That 20-year-old.
Yeah.
From New York City.
Kind of, bro. You know, you're not off there. Like it's a solid-ish case. But yes, so this semester I'll hopefully finish, and then we'll see.
Someone who is joined in right now is asking where is Daniel. उसको लगा कि ये सही हो गया.
Acha, we are still streaming. Oh my God, I made confessions. I had no idea. I thought we were off stream now.
No. We are still streaming. I usually say
lovely.
when we are off stream. But guys, thank you all in the viewers who were following, and you guys gave so many moves here for everything. So thank you for that. And also, Anirban, this is the first stream you are on ChessBase India after you became a father. So huge congratulations to you.
Oh, congratulations, bro.
Thank you.
Amazing, yeah, it's great. And Anirban, that's why he's very busy right now. He has
Anirban का baby अभी तक चला गया घर वर छोड़ के पापा स्क्रीन पे बैठा हुआ है.
Anirban told me 11:30 को हो नहीं सकता है usually because I have to take care. तो आज Anirban ने क्या setting, मतलब you put
Grandmaster series मतलब आते ही मेरा automatic WhatsApp में yes चला जाता है. My favorite series. Please never stop it. Vaibhav shouldn't get that chess set.
Yeah,
should just continue.
We have like right now what has happened is with Biswa scoring 2.5, so he goes to 96. Vaibhav,
And can you not mention my score of today ever again? It's,
no,
Oh.
Vaibhav scored 3.5, so he has moved to 112.5, and Anirban has scored 5, so he's on 81.5, so he's quickly moving up. And Prakhar, who has been here for only 2 sessions, is already on 12 points, so 6 in both.
Also the highest in the last one.
Yes, you were, but you were joint winner with Anirban last time. So this time you are the sole winner. Okay, guys, thank you so much for coming, and maybe
should you do like?
Oh wow!
Oh my God!
Hey,
What's her name?
Adrita.
Adrita. Wow.
Yes.
And she's what now? How old?
She already has the
She's
chess face
four.
on her.
She's like,
Happy.
she's like, oh, I don't like
Okay,
the.
sorry. She's like an unsupported pawn.
She said, I don't like the exchange sacrifice. Yeah.
Anirban baby लेके आ गया stream पे.
Amazing.
I was saying, should you do like ICC Test Championship types, like percentage wise? In at least 5 you have to attend, and then percentage wise whoever scores the highest wins, because then for Samay and Prakhar they can never catch up. No, 100 का lead रहेगा तो फिर कैसे करेगा?
Yeah, that's why I
मेरे point
introduced
समय का
this
लगा दूंगा.
per episode prize. So then, because then this way they can win that prize. But the eventual one, the big one, I guess, yeah, I mean, I had kept it in a way.
I think percentage कर दो ना, minimum 10 कर दो, and then percentage कर दो. That way it's more competitive.
Okay.
Makes
Then
sense.
I was thinking that next episode to try and ask Ding Lijen once. Maybe if we can ask him, would be very nice. उनका जो game है वो out of the world है थोड़े, like the best games of his. So to find those moves would be very, very tough. And if you have any suggestions, then maybe we can try and invite them. But I think Daniel Naroditsky was someone that we wanted since a long time, and I'm very happy that it happened.
Definitely.
ठीक है, guys.
Right.
Hey, but
So see you.
how many streams are we having of Grandmasters?
Actually, there is.
खत्म होने नहीं है.
अगर
Now
खत्म हो
board
गया
पे
तो
मिलेगा
season
you know
2
the
करना.
last episode will be with Vishy Anand. We'll do that. Like whenever he's in, we'll do
Sir,
it.
1 second. This is not a definitive answer.
हाँ, मतलब ये क्या
The last episode will be
There are
Viswanand.
4 jokes that I did not want to make right now.
Yeah, the limit of that is,
Vishy Anand's lifetime.
अरे यार तू क्यों ये सब बोलता है यार?
नहीं, I put it as subtle as possible, but joke है.
No, the thing is that अगर अपन वो last episode कब करेंगे? That is the question. Should we keep it like 50? Should we keep it 64? Should we keep it 30? I mean, I don't know.
64.
अरे सर कुछ भी करके खत्म करो ना एक.
नहीं
मतलब
नहीं
प्राइस तो मिल, अरे
ये
खत्म करने को नहीं बोलूंगा, मतलब प्राइस तो मिलना चाहिए
हाँ
ना.
मेरे
ना,
घर पे
तो
मतलब
क्या-
it's taking up a lot of space, you know, the price. I would be very happy if someone wins it, but I'm like,
No, so-
should, हाँ.
I was suggesting that maybe cut this short, like maybe next game, maybe 25 pay or whatever, and then
season two.
as soon as possible, so that the percentage thing comes in play, and then that will be more fun.
Okay.
Like then it's competitive for everyone.
Hey, check the percentage now. What's the
I think chat is saying 69 episodes, and I agree with chat.
But you know, Anirban, the percentage thing won't work for you because you have attended all the sessions.
No, I haven't.
Really?
Yeah.
Percentage कर दो.
हाँ, आप
69
Agad,
episodes.
Jakob Agad में you were not there, and you were not there in the first one of Vidit, and in Negi also you weren't there, and Ramesh. Oh, you were not there in 4. अच्छा.
Yeah.
Oh, 4 में.
परसेंटेज करो.
I am pushing
अभी
it.
कितना एपिसोड हो गए सर?
अभी ये वाला था 19th.
अरे 69 तो नहीं हो रहा, तो आई थिंक 50 और एपिसोड नहीं हो सकता. We can't call and waste time of 50 more grandmasters.
I think
I mean, we can't convert these scores to percentage, na? ऐसे
No,
तो-
not for that DGT board. We should not waste so many grandmasters times. I feel.
हाँ,
So
नहीं, I
then
was-
we can make it 25 then. 25 might be.
25 is good. 25 is good.
So then in
25 and then
25 we have 6 more sessions, and if Anand, I would request him to come for last, and if that happens then we have 5 more grandmasters,
And then 25 episodes के बाद percentage or
25 के बाद I think we should start with percentage. I think that's a nicer way to go.
sure. But I think Prakhar, you enjoyed on its own, yeah, ye sessions, like not
I love it.
yeah,
I had
so
such a great time. Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, so I'll send you the book. You will get it within. When are you leaving for the US?
Saturday. So day after.
Oh, Saturday.
Yes.
ठीक है, तो we'll send it in like speed post, or I mean very quickly, so you'll get it.
sure.
If you can just send me the address, and then
I will text you.
yeah. Cool, guys. Thank you, Biswa, Anirban, Vaibhav, Prakhar. Thank you for being here, and take care, guys.
See you. Bye bye.
Bye. Guys, that was, what a session that was. And as Vaibhav rightly pointed out, you know, Daniel is so good at this. Like, he speaks the most, like, he speaks just enough whenever he's explaining. It never feels like he didn't explain it, like there was something missing. And he says just the right amount. And I think he's a born teacher. And really, all those who have not checked him out, please do so. I think what we have been doing at ChessBase India is try to improve, right? And I've always tried to guide you to good sources where you can improve your chess. And I think Daniel Naroditsky is one of them, really right up there. So please do check out his channels and do it. And in a way, you know, he has a very similar vision to what I have with the academy, where someone who wants to improve at chess starts from very scratch and goes all the way up to a strong player, and he's building that already, which is amazing. And so thank you, Ashwath Raja, for putting up there the links of Daniel's Twitch and YouTube. Rakshit says 32 is enough number of episodes, also is related to chess. 32 is good. Yeah, I think some of the grandmasters which I'm thinking is Ding Lejeune, Wesley So. Maybe if Hikaru would be keen, then we can ask him. Also Vishy, if he comes, and I guess should also look at perhaps Hoi Yifan, maybe the top strongest women player, and also Judith Polgar hasn't been on this series, so I'll ask her if she would like to be. I mean, we can do it. And Flashbin says was an amazing session. Thank you. Oh, Magnus, yes. I had actually written to Magnus once, and I had written to Henrik, actually his father, and I guess at some point when Magnus would have time from playing tournaments, perhaps that would be great. Yeah, that's true. Sarvesh, Levon is there. There's so many great players. Actually, yeah, divided into seasons is right. True, Anna Muzichuk as well. So many great players. can we get positional book by Danya on chess base, please? No, we don't have that one, but we do have the one which he recommended today, which is called the Herman Gruten's book. I'll put the link in the description just in case if anyone wants to. That one, I was very much happy that we have it on our, I think this is the one which he was talking about. Let me just put it here. Yeah, this is the one which he was saying about chess strategy for club players, the road to positional advantage. And I'll put the link. I've already put the link to his book, that Prakhar one, but I'll also put the link to this one in case you want to check it out. And a huge thanks to, of course, Daniel for coming today. A huge thanks to all 4 people who were here. Without them, it's not possible. Also, some of them were not in their best of healths, yet they came today. So really grateful for that. And all of you who took out time to watch this. I think it was a very instructive episode chess-wise, and also some of the philosophical answers which Naroditsky gave were very nice. So, oh, and today is Vidit versus Anish at night 6:30. तो मैं आऊँगा रात को थोड़ी देर commentary करने को. I'm also not feeling very healthy right now. I have to make sure that I take some rest, but I'll definitely come for Vidit versus Anish's game today. It's going to be fun. Dubo, yes, Siddhant Lahoti, Dubo. Harsh Baba says, it's my first time watching this series, loved it. We'll go back and watch all previous episodes. Please do, please do. This is very good one. I think it's one of the most instructive ones on Chess Base India. So take care, guys. Bye bye. See you.